So Father's Day was a few days ago, and I got to thinking, who is the best father in Dragon Ball, or father figure? Let's begin the discussion now. Hey guys, if you want to hear my deconstructions and breakdowns of other things that I love, like movies, TV, wrestling, and life, then be sure to check out my brand new channel, World of Geekdom. I will leave a link down below. One of the themes of Dragon Ball has always been the relationships between fathers and sons. From Goku to Gohan, from Vegeta to Trunks, fathers in Dragon Ball and their impact on their children have always been something that's very important to the story and the integrity of the narrative. Well, on this video, we're going to discuss which of the fathers in Dragon Ball we feel should win Father of the Anime. Who's the best father in Dragon Ball? We're going to touch on Dragon Ball Z. We're going to touch on Super. Not so much GT because there's not that many new fathers in GT, but mostly Dragon Ball Z and Super. And of course, maybe even some of the movies. Who knows? Now, joining me to talk about this topic, please welcome one of the fathers of Dragon Ball YouTubing, pun intended. Please welcome Detective Q, a.k.a. Qaaman.
I was waiting so long for you to introduce me as that. Alrighty, guys, it is Qaaman here today, also known as Detective Q, and let's talk about this.
I want to call you Father Q for this video.
Go ahead, man.
All right, I'm not going to do that. So, our old friend Juan did this video about Piccolo and Goku and who the better father is, and the discussion has always been talked about. It's one of those discussions that's been going on in our fandom for literally, like 15 years or maybe even more, about who is a better father/father figure. And people have said, of course, that they've made jokes that Piccolo raised Gohan and this and that. But you've also got Goku in the Room of Spirit and Time, the hyperbolic time chamber, spending a year with Gohan, plus those 3 years they trained for the android. So there was a lot of time where Gohan and Goku bonded, not to mention also, when Gohan was really little. And of course, later on in the series, even now in Dragon Ball Super. So I know you're a Piccolo fan, but let's be real here. Let's be 100% real. Who do you think is a better father to Gohan?
Well, it's funny because I recorded a video with Mozilla Vulpix, and what I'm about to say is going to shock you. I think Goku's a better father than Piccolo. But the way I look at Goku versus Piccolo as parents is kind of like an alpha parent and a beta parent. And if you guys want like crash course psychology on this, pretty much the beta parent is like the more relaxed parent who doesn't really have to force their kids to do anything. And then the alpha parent is more of the disciplinarian who's kind of always on their kid and just watching everything they do. And I think that dynamic of Gohan's life makes it really interesting. But the reason why I say Goku is a better parent is because in ways, if you look at the training and the way Goku has his relationship with his son, Goku didn't have to use force to show affection and love and to bring out the best in Gohan. Piccolo had to do everything the hard way, whereas Goku, it just came natural, and the connection that they had was just so much better and richer. So although I think Piccolo was better at teaching Gohan, the basics and like the disciplinary things, I think Goku was actually better in terms of developing Gohan, in terms of his relationship, his manners, his respect, all of those things. And Piccolo just got rid of the spoiled brat inside of him.
Yeah, but not just that. I do want to give one quick thumbs up to Piccolo on this one. When Piccolo first trained Gohan for that first year, not only were they in a rush, but Piccolo was a douche back then. He had no connection to Gohan. He would leave him in the jungle for 6 months to survive. I mean, that's
Child
not really
abuse.
stuff that... Pretty much, man.
He threw the poor kid at a mountain, bro. Yeah, bring out your power. Just throw you at a mountain.
Don't do that with your kid, Quinn.
Of course not.
So moving on, let's talk about some of the other fathers. Now, speaking of Gohan, Gohan himself is a father. Gohan himself marries Videl and they have Pan. Now, we haven't seen too much of Gohan as a father in GT. There was a little bit of it, but really we're seeing a lot of this in Dragon Ball Super, especially with some of the episodes that focus on Gohan and Videl's relationship and Gohan's love of his family. And it's pretty safe to say that Gohan's one of the better fathers in the series because he really cares about spending time with his wife and kid. I mean, in that episode where Trunks went to go meet him, it was very apparent that Gohan really wants to spend time with his family more than Goku and Vegeta, who of course are battle-hungry Saiyans. They want to train more than spend time with family. Gohan's the more humanistic of those guys, and I feel like Gohan would be much more concerned with raising Pan to be a balanced person than raising her to be a tough, fighter. Even though I'm sure Goku wants that, Gohan probably wants her to just live a happy life. So what do you think about Gohan as a father from what we've seen?
Well, inside Dragon Ball GT, I would probably have to say that if you were to compare Gohan to like Goku and stuff, I think Gohan definitely had probably a more loving relationship. And I read something on Konzenshu a while back that says that the reasons why they think Gohan is a much softer, gentle father who, you know, is very loving towards Videl and Pan is because of the fact that although Goku was a loving and caring father himself to Gohan, Goku was absent for a lot of his life. And they feel that subconsciously, because Gohan spent so many periods of his life without his father, he wanted to make sure that he was always there for Pan and Videl. And it kind of makes me think that when you look at it from that perspective, I think that makes Gohan the most genuine father in the series compared to a lot, because he's really just there for his family and he's not trying to force them to be a fighter or force them to be a scholar. He's just kind of letting Pan be Pan.
And that's the right way to do things anyways, really, in many ways. Yeah, because you have Chi-Chi kind of forcing her, not really forcing, but having a strong suggestion. Got to be careful when Kyrie's watching. Having a very strong suggestion to make her kids scholars, which is for the best. I mean, that is for the best. But at the same time, you've got Goku wanting the opposite. So yeah, Gohan would be better. Now let's talk about Vegeta's evolution as a father. Obviously, early on in the series, kind of a standoffish, you know, especially with Future Trunks. When we get to the Buu arc, we see a lot more of that kind of love, not just with Vegeta's sacrifice, but the fact that he genuinely cares about Trunks. And then going into Super, we're seeing things like him taking Trunks to the amusement park. And, you know, I feel like Vegeta overall as a character has softened up tremendously. And even though some people don't like this, I think it shows true character development that this guy went from literally being a space pirate tyrant to being a loving husband and father, to where he was even mad. Let me tell you how much Vegeta changed. He was mad at Goku Black for killing the future Bulma. That's not even his Bulma. That's the future Bulma. But because it's still Bulma, it bugged him. I love that about Vegeta. So what do you think about Vegeta?
Bro, I could talk all day about this. I mean, one of my earliest videos, me and Black and Fist did like a 2-part special. He talked about his Goku a bad father. I talked about his Vegeta a bad father. And the thing is, when you and Herms were talking the other day about Vegeta's atonement, I think that defines Vegeta's character the most, because not only did he redeem his character, he redeemed himself as a father when he was talking to Trunks saying, you know, I never really held you much when you were a baby and all of that stuff. And I think the thing with Vegeta is that if you want to also talk about being a husband combined with being a father, that thing in Dragon Ball Super about being upset with future Bulma dying says a lot, because in that timeline, he pretty much just hit it and quit it and left. And also at the very beginning of Dragon Ball Super, you know, you see that, you know, although Vegeta kind of felt obligated to do it, he was hanging out with his family on that vacation, and Trunks was so happy to see that his father was willing to spend time. And also seeing Vegeta with Bulma shows even more that he has a softer side and how he didn't want to leave Bulma alone when she was pregnant. So I would definitely say Vegeta has redeemed himself the most out of all fathers in the series, considering back in the Android arc, Bulma and baby Trunks almost died and he didn't care.
Right, exactly. And Future Trunks yelled at him. I love that scene. Now, what about Krillin as a father? I would say Krillin is kind of like Gohan in that he does care a lot about his family. But the difference is that Gohan knows that he has this innate power that he needs to use. So I feel like Gohan is kind of torn between being what Piccolo and Goku want him to be and being, you know, more focused on his family, whereas Krillin kind of knows that he's never going to be at that level of power, so he would rather just focus on his family, but he always stands up to do the right thing, and I like that about Krillin. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the interesting thing with Krillin is that you see kind of a similar thing with, you know, Gohan, where he's just kind of a loving father with, you know, Android 18 and, you know, Marin, obviously. Marin with 2 R's, by the way. Don't say 1 R because something's going to piss off 18.
Don't get it mixed up.
But,
that's
you know, back in Dragon Ball...
She'll break your arm, bro.
Exactly, bro. Break both. But if you go back to Dragon Ball Super, I believe it was episode 68, that random filler episode where, like, they were, like, summoning Shenron, and then, like, you know, Bulma was saying, oh, or something like, you know, oh, the only thing Krillin really needs in his life is you and Marin. And that really shows that, like, he really doesn't care much.
Oh, man,
and the cool thing about Krillin, you know, geekdom, is that I've always felt that to a significantly lower degree that Krillin was kind of like a big brother, third dad to Gohan, because he was there for Gohan in a lot of ways that I think a lot of people don't forget. Like, when Goku and Piccolo were absent, Krillin kind of took over that parental role with Bulma, who was kind of like a temporary mother on the way to Namek, and he defended Gohan. He was there for him emotionally when Goku died in the Android arc, and I think that kind of shows that even before Krillin was a dad, he kind of showed some paternal qualities with Gohan.
I always saw like Uncle Krillin, like he's more of an uncle. Yeah, I always liked their little relationship, and I like how it didn't really develop past that, but I like how in the Saiyan and Namek arcs you really saw that, like, a lot. Let's talk about some of the villainous fathers. We don't know too much about these guys, but we should talk about them because we don't really know their relationship. Now, we've got King Vegeta, who in the filler, it's implied that he and Prince Vegeta, our Vegeta, had some kind of like relationship bond. Even though it's not in the manga, it's really more pushed in the filler that they cared about each other. Then we have guys like Bardock, who didn't really care about Goku that much until he found out that Goku was the savior in the future, the guy who would face Frieza. Then we have Paragus, who used his son for all intents and purposes. I mean, that's kind of what he did. We have Bibbidi, who just created Boo. There wasn't much of a connection there from what we saw. We have King Cold, who I do think that Frieza and King Cold had a connection. Obviously, based on the way Frieza talks about him, but Frieza's just so egotistical that he doesn't even care that much about his father. But I think King Cold did care a little bit, even though he acted like he didn't around Trunks. I think he did. And then the big one we got to talk about here is also Dr. Gero, or Dr. Gero, because he, in a way, not only did he model 16 after his own son, but he considers Cell and the androids his children. They really... Metaphorically, they really aren't, but he did kind of follow the entire arc in a way. So, is there anything you want to say about those guys? Which out of those 6 guys, which do you think is the best father, from what we know?
As a little bit of an honorable mention, geekdom, can I say Cell? I mean, because he did have like the Cell Juniors, right? And I mean, he pretty much sent them to their deaths against Gohan.
Terrible father, bro. But he did kind of react when they died. Also, same thing with King Piccolo. King Piccolo gave birth to Drum, Tambourine, and when they died, it would hurt him. So I like that little thing about how, okay, he's this evil dude, but he has like this weird empathy for these for his children.
Ultimately, I think out of all the fathers that you mentioned, the one that sticks out to me the most would be King Cold. And just recently we did a video on what if Frost ruled Frieza's empire, and you made the points talking about Frieza was clearly a person who had a lot of morals and, a lot of instincts taken from his father, because his father clearly had to have a big impact on his life to have his son literally ruling the entire universe, or at least parts of the universe, and being, obviously the father of that character. So I would say that both King Cole and King Vegeta definitely had the strongest relationship. King Vegeta in the sense that the same thing with Vegeta to a lower degree. You have a father who's in an authoritative position, and his son is kind of like this kid with all this potential. And in the filler episode, you see that King Vegeta was willing to organize a little militia to go and try and kill Frieza. And the poor thing is, all those poor Saiyans, they were like literally just so terrified their faces were turning purple. But
yeah, King Vegeta failed.
He tried though. Him and Bardock.
Now, we've also got Guru, the Grand Elder of Namek, another character like Piccolo. Of course, they're the same species. We have that. And then we've also got, on top of that, I mean, actually, let's talk about Guru, the Grand Elder of Namek. Like, I think he was just more of like a godfather kind of thing versus anything else.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you have so many kids, I mean, obviously they all look up to him, but, like, it's kind of hard to, like, think exactly how well your relationship would be with them. But the weird thing about...
There's so many of them.
Right, but the weird thing about the Namekians is that, you know how, like, in the society that we have, like, you have, like, a low context or a high context society where you have, like, a more collectivist or more individualistic society? The Namekians seem to be extremely collectivistic in terms of their culture and how they kind of work together. They feel like all one person, like one big unit of people, whereas, it's about the individual. And I think that really speaks volumes that, with the exception of people like King Piccolo and Slug in the movies and stuff, they're all genuinely good people that kind of all follow the same morals, and that could stem from Guru.
To me, though, let's put a kibosh on this. The best father in Dragon Ball, without question, is the Daishinkan. There's no argument there. He fathered all the angels. They're all really strong. He may have sinister motives. We don't know that as of this video. Vados and we seem to get along. There's no internal family conflict that we're aware of. I think Daishinkan, the Great Priest, is undoubtedly the best father in Dragon Ball. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, he's pretty much the god of... He's literally the godfather, right? I mean, he's the kind of the god and father of all the angels, so yeah.
All right, well, let us know in the comments who you think is the best father in Dragon Ball. Do you think it's Daishinkan? Do you think it's Goku, Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin? And if you have anybody who you think we should have mentioned, definitely do that. Also, definitely check out Detective Q's video with Mozilla Vulpix. I'll leave a link to it. Two smart people talking about fathers in Dragon Ball. It's a nice, I guess, side piece to this video, so check that out.
And
thank you for being here.
The Geekdom, you cannot forget, bro. I have to add this before you close out the video. Frieza, man. I mean, he had a son in Kuriza, right? And you got to plug your old video, bro. Frieza's a father.
Frieza is a father. Yeah, he fucked himself because he's asexual.
And since you...
I wish I could do that.
And since you pretty much use Frieza as your icon, bro, you're a daddy too, bro. You really are the daddy.
I'm not touching that one, bro. So, if you like this video, check these out too.